Alright, so here's my new Hitachi EX120. It's a 2001 and it has 3,600 hours on it. I just picked it up from our local John Deere dealership. It was privately owned, but they had done a couple of small repairs to it, and I actually bought it from the company that owns it, and we just picked it up from there, took it straight to this job site, and figured that we would test it out. So I picked this machine up as it sits for $3,500, which is pretty much a smoking deal. Everything on it seems to work so far. Has some scratches. It's an older machine. It's missing a couple of panels underneath, but overall it runs pretty good. So it had been sitting in the John Deere yard for about 6 months due to them thinking that it needed an engine, and it was chronically overheating. So I was a little bit concerned when we picked it up. They had done a couple of small things. Here's the engine bay here. It's an Isuzu 4BDT engine. It's supposed to be 98 to 111 horsepower, but what they had done to it is there was coolant mixing with the oil. So they did an oil cooler down there, and it solved that problem. But they said that it kept overheating. And we've put about 11 hours on it here at this job site now, with no real overheating problem. So I don't really know if it's good or bad, but it starts up perfectly and runs all day long. Now in here is some grime, a couple of small leaks going on, and I just think it's never really been washed recently. But I have all these panels. John Deere wanted to get rid of it, and they just kind of threw all these panels on top of the machine when it was sitting on the yard. So it just needs to be put back together. I just figured I'd use it, see what's wrong with it, give it a wash, and then I'd put all the panels back in. So it was a demo machine its whole life. Came with an awesome front grille there, and it even has the glass that slides down up top, so you can have both options. This is easily replaceable, and you can take it off pretty quick. Some of the welds that their mechanics had done were a little bit suspect, and it's definitely been hit a couple times. There's a few cracks, some rust spots, a couple of small repairs, but you can't really complain for the amount of money that I paid for this thing. It has one leaky cylinder here, which I think we're going to address pretty quickly, because that would easily take you out of a job if that thing ended up exploding. It's probably pretty heavy to take off, but I think that we'll be able to do that pretty quickly. A couple of cool features with this machine. I wasn't really in the market for something this size because it's a little bit big for me to tow around from job site to job site. But what I really like, and haven't been able to use it so far because I just got it, is this large storage container that is right there on the machine. It'd be good to have some excess fluids, a couple of hydraulic lines that you know that you're going to break, stuff like that in there. But all the doors work pretty good. I mean, this one is the only one that is a little bit loose. It kind of might be missing a few screws there, and it's a little bit low on hydraulic fluid. But this compartment super clean. Hydraulic motors looking good. No real issues with hoses. They're all in really good shape here. Maybe a fuel filter wouldn't hurt, since that one's totally collapsed in there. But this is the only one you kind of have to slam shut. And the counterweight's looking pretty decent. They didn't really hit it on a whole bunch of stuff, so that's awesome. Door has all of its glass, which is really surprising. So we close this thing, Here's a couple of things we need to replace. Is the coolant reservoir has seen better days and kind of leaks on top of the batteries here. It's not a big deal, it's just, you know, water and coolant, but definitely something to replace rather quickly. As they said, it had overheating problems. The batteries look a little bit on the older side, so might replace those, just because we will be working with this machine quite often, and don't want that to hold us up. And what's really exciting is that it came with a fully hydraulic thumb. It's a little bit on the interesting side, since it only has 2 tines and the rest have been cut off, but it's in overall pretty good shape and should work pretty good for what we're doing with it, with mostly house demos and grading. And this bucket was originally a tooth bucket, and the previous owner just welded a cutting edge onto the teeth, which I'm not sure if I like that yet or not, but this bucket works pretty good, besides having a couple of dents and dings in it. Maybe a little bit of hard facing wouldn't hurt. Like right there, it looks like the metal's getting a little bit thin. So there's a little dent right there, but other than that, it's in pretty good shape. It's a CP quick coupler, but it's manual, and the only problem with it is that this pin gives a lot of slop, and this pin moves around and it makes it seem like the bucket pins are in bad shape, but all it is this quick attach coupler, which is a little bit disappointing, especially since somebody paid the extra money to have it, but it's something that we can live with for sure. So getting in the cab here, a little bit dirty from working in the mud. All right, so hopping in the cab here, get her fired up real quick. As you can see, 3,686 hours. They even dropped it off with a full tank of fuel, which is an even better deal. But this unit was equipped with what looks like an AutoZone coolant temp sensor, which I'm pretty quickly going to mount either on the side or the bottom of this cluster here, so that I don't have to look over my shoulder the whole time to make sure that it's running at the proper temperature. And then this unit also has AC and heat, which is super cool, and the AC actually works and the heat works, which is really cool for something that you know, we're kind of paying pennies on the dollar for. The only thing that doesn't work is the radio. I've kind of fiddled with it, and it has power to it, it just does not want to turn on. So I might be putting a aftermarket radio in here to kind of see how that does. And underneath, or behind the seat, got a whole storage area. You know, it didn't come with the fuse block panel, which is fine. I mean, everything just gets kind of dirty in here anyways. But the glass actually works pretty good. Has a holder here, and then drop this thing down, and you gotta kind of slam it into place. But it works good. You know, it's pretty easy to close all the doors. It makes it quite a bit quieter in here. Now, what's interesting about this machine is, here, let me raise it up. It really quickly puts the bucket out of view here. Let me raise the arm up. And right here, I can't see it anymore from where I'm at. So I wish that they maybe made this a little bit safer, but you do have a hatch that opens straight up to the sky, and makes it pretty easy to see what you're doing way up there. But it doesn't really protect you from anything falling on you if you're putting dirt way up there or demoing something extremely close to you. It definitely could be a little bit on the dangerous side. Get that closed up here. unit is sealed pretty well. None of the glass is clean. Like I said, I just brought it straight to this job site and have been just using it here, making sure everything was good, because we didn't actually know the condition of this machine until it came here. But the slider works pretty good. All that, you know, it's missing the plastic that would go over this release, but I'm not exactly sure what this does. It doesn't make any noise or anything when we use it, so I have no idea. But that's kind of the only mystery thing, granted that all the controls here are in Japanese, and all the rest of them are pretty self-explanatory except for this little mystery guy. So, but all in all, pretty happy with this machine. No warning lights on the dash. As you can see, it's super low hours, and yeah, it starts and stops really nicely. Not a whole lot of play in anything. I mean, start it back up here. One of the things that was interesting is they had said that it had a blown head gasket or a cracked head, so I did put some head gasket sealer in there, which is not a real fix, but it has worked for me in the past temporarily. And there used to be a little bit of smoke coming out of the blow-by tube right there, and since we've been using it, the smoke is completely cleared up. And I don't really recommend anybody doing that, but for the price that we paid, again, I figured it was worth a shot just to see what was going on. And coming up to the engine here, I mean, it couldn't really sound any better than that. There's no leaks. Everything worked really well. All the radiators seem to be in good shape. Everything works as it should. And check the blow by here just in case the road draft tube is clogged. And can't really ask for a much better engine than that. Get this closed up here. Everything's looking pretty good. I mean, we even, you know, we're checking oil for the pivot. All that's looking pretty decent. The hydraulics aren't overpressurizing, blowing any hoses. The only real problem we've seen is this cylinder in particular. And I really think that our John Deere dealership was kind of scaring the customer into getting a new engine when they didn't really need it. This machine will work perfect for what we're using it for. Is, you know, we do minimal dirt work and you know, smaller scale demos, which, I mean, we've been doing that with an 85G and before that a 50G John Deere, and this thing is bigger than them both, so can't really ask for anything more than that. And, you know, the whole machine's in Japanese, but this is you know, this is pretty easy to understand. Everything is pretty easy to work on. You know, with it being an Isuzu engine, all the stuff is real cheap, real easy to get to. So maintenance is going to be a real breeze if we have to do any sort of engine work. The only thing I'm a little bit scared of is doing any of the hydraulic stuff. This is very equivalent to a John Deere 120 of the same year, but it does have a couple of minor differences, and the Hitachi has been considered a gray machine for at least 5 years now. They don't really make any parts for this Hitachi that are specific to these machines, and really the only parts you can get are the John Deere variants of them. So that being said, if some of the proprietary parts fail, I'll have to look elsewhere for them, but that's kind of what it is when you're buying a gray machine. Another really cool feature about this, and I think we lucked out, is having these rubber pads already installed on the machine. So they're pretty much I mean, none of these ones here have a chunk missing. I mean, they're almost in brand new shape, and it's perfect for getting them to and from the job site. They don't work very well in the mud. It kind of slips and slides all over the place, but if you're used to it, it's not that big of a deal. And for being on concrete, which is where most of our jobs are, this is, you know, kind of a game changer here. And there's 90 pads on this machine, and if we were paying, you know, 80 to 100 bucks a piece for these, I mean, I can't believe, you know, that'd be more than I even paid for this entire machine. So really lucked out, and I mean, I really couldn't be any happier with this purchase. It's you know, everything we've been doing here is made way more fun by having such a cheap machine. And you know, if we have to keep it at a job site for a couple months because it's too big to get where we're working or whatever, that's no big deal, because I mean, it's paid for and realistically pretty much free. Now, I mean, it is pretty grimy under there. I mean, I've seen a couple of different videos where people are having, you know, entire ecosystems under the boom, and you know, I think that this machine was pretty well cared for. In fact, the old owners actually gave me every single maintenance record and every inspection that this machine has ever had in its entire life. And what I think is really cool is that they repainted it in 2007, and it looks a little bit different than any other Hitachi with the color scheme. And it's not the best in the world, but it definitely makes it you know, a little unique. And compared to some of the other excavators that, you know, are quote unquote the cheapest out there, it's really in good shape. And I mean, I think some people won't believe that this was 3,500 bucks, but it's really awesome. And you know, it just was kind of one of those deals where the owners wanted to get rid of it because they were really convinced that they had to spend $40,000 on an engine due to overheating concerns. And I mean, I've had it for a day and a half, and we've put 11 hours on it just to try and see if it would overheat, and including doing like stress tests, keeping the hydraulics on you know, all the hydraulics on relief and full throttle, just to see what would happen or if anything would break. And nothing happened. I get that it's not good for the machine, but we kind of want to see where the weak points are if we're going to be making money with this in the future. And you know, it really is incredible. I mean, I'm all one for having Facebook deals and Craigslist deals and whatnot, but this is, you know, why you make friends with everyone locally. Is my parts guy called me up and said, hey, you know, if you come over here, I think this guy is willing to sell you the machine. And you know, he was originally asking $7 grand, and we're able to get this thing down to 3,500 bucks. And you know, it's just like every part on this machine is worth more than that. And it's pretty incredible. It's like I got, you know, a couple or leak there. Cabin's not super clean, but you know, everything can be fixed. You know, it's fast, slow, whatever. Right now it currently operates, and I don't really see any reason why it would fail me very soon. But yeah, I guess I'll do some more work with this thing. So as you can see, this thing works pretty good, especially considering the price and the fact that I've done zero work to the thing. This is the dirt that we've excavated over the past couple days here, cutting this hillside out so there can be a road to this new house. But I'm gonna be using this thing to load up Super 10s in the next couple of days. But I mean, it's done pretty decent. No real complaints. It's just that the hydraulics get a little sluggish when the hydraulic fluid gets warm, and maybe a hydraulic fluid flush and some filter change might help it out. But you know, I mean, this is a pretty cool machine, even if it wasn't as cheap as it was. I mean, honestly, after using it, I'm pretty impressed with, you know, how well this thing does for being over 20 years old. And I mean, the way it starts up, I mean, having the Isuzu engine in there, you know, mechanical diesel, and it's pretty much like a 12 valve Cummins. It just seems like it just wants to run and keep on running. So I'm gonna do a couple mods in the future, but as for right now, I'm just gonna run it until something happens, or you know, whatnot, and maybe fix her up and keep on trucking. Who knows? This is a pretty good machine, and I don't think it's worth it to sell it